what was it, the day after I got the car back. It's time to unload Dotty. The reason I had to waterproof it is because with the bubble in the garage, I don't have anywhere easy to roll it in to keep it dry. But the other problem is that I need space to work around it. If I put this in the garage, I'm going to be constantly dragging bits and pieces past it, and the risk is that I damage it. Now, in terms of real heavy work to do, it's all the floor pan in this area. So what I'm going to do is concentrate on just being able to open that door, work around the car without getting sparks on things and without damaging anything. So I'm going to unload it down here somewhere, as tight up to that one as I can get, so I can just get to the left hand side with lots of space. Operation successful. Car unloaded, no additional damage caused. I have plenty of room to open the door, which is good. In here I've pulled the seat out. I've also taken the sound deadening pad out of this side. We have mixed news. A lot of it at the back is a lot better than I thought. I thought I would have to do the same as I did on the other side of the car and cut right out up to the transmission tunnel, but that is all good solid metal right the way back to there. I don't usually shy away from attacking things with the chisel of doom, and that's been the case here, and so that is all really good. The heel board, I always anticipated saving it, repairing it, replacing it, because that's just gone. See, you can actually puncture it. This is good metal up here, incidentally. You can dent it, you can bend it, but it won't go through, but down there it'll go through. So yeah, that one needs to come out. The good news is that the chassis rail under here, it passes a test top and bottom, as does that outrigger thing, so that's good. So I'll have to chop out the rear of the heel board, bottom 2 inches, chop the floor, the last sort of, well, I'll probably do a big L section piece up to about here. That can go in, that's fine. At the front though, it's less than good news. The duct for the heater blower to go through to the carpet to the driver's feet, it's attached by that screw up there and down here, and it basically rusted a hole there. And then we have quite a lot of rot in the front, which will require further pickage, but it's going to be quite major surgery. I've started the chopping. It's messy and I'm worried about protecting the paint, so I think I'm going to stop and buy some more blankets. Got next to no battery left. I've cleaned up all of that area. I've changed my method of repair down on this inner edge. Because the body shop have painted the outer edge of the sill black, I don't want to weld onto that return flange, and that seam is perfect. All the underseal underneath is perfect, so I'm just going to seam weld onto the top of it rather than do what I did on the other side, which was weld onto the inner sill, because I just don't need to on this side. So we have Hydrate 80 on there. That can go on or go off overnight, and then I can start preparing panels to go back in on top. Hopefully I can do it in just the heel board panel and then one piece of floor, do it one big hit. Yeah, not bad for the first, I don't know, initial play. It's taking me about an hour and a half. It's now starting to get a little bit dark, so I'm going to go in. Back to the bomb site. The last bit of video you will have seen was Monday night, I think. It's now Wednesday night. I'm knackered again because I've had a very long day yesterday and a long day today as well, but we are making progress. Those long days, incidentally, nothing to do with Dotty. I haven't actually done anything other than tonight. Basically, last thing you saw was me rust treating the floor, chopping out the rot. This heel board section came, well, I chopped that up when I did the other side. I just never had an opportunity to weld it in, so that's going to go in there like that. This is a piece of floor. Just this evening I've chopped this out of a much larger floor section. If you've been following the video series, you'll remember I bought a whole cabin floor for 104 quid, and I've just been using it for sections. This is basically, it could all be, excuse me, it could all be done out of flat sheet, but it does actually have a curve in it that way, and that way, so it's a lot nicer. Oh, and of course it has all the inspection holes and the drain plug hole as well, so it just looks a bit more original if you can use the original bits. But yeah, that is prepped and ready to go in there. I've marked where I need it, that all lines up. That I need to trim a little bit more, but that goes in afterwards and sits on top. It needs some plug weld holes in there, but I'm thinking for speed I might just seam weld it. But yeah, it's what is it? I think it's about 7 PM. I've been up since 6. I drove from where I live all the way to Swansea, which is a long way, did some work, and then came all the way home again. So that's about 420 miles of driving, 7.5 to 8 hours in the car, plus work, and now I'm back here working on the car again. I'm trying to get all the metal work done before the glass goes in, and the glass man is coming on Saturday, and it's Wednesday night now, so I don't have a lot of time, and I'm worried about what that whole area is going to look like. But anyway, we shall persevere. I am a man on a mission. I have trimmed this down to the final size. I've painted inside the box sections with red oxide. I've also done the underside bits, which are then going to be impossible to get to afterwards, so they should all be protected. Then I've just cleaned up a few places where I can tack it along here, like so, and then when that's in position I'll beat it down, go round and clean it up properly, and then weld it in properly. I'm still not sure my GoPro's working. I will go and find it and try it, but there aren't going to be any weldy action shots with this lot. It's going to be very much more here it is done type of YouTubing. Can't find the GoPro, so we shall continue as planned. Started doing a few beads just in here, all welding nicely. You can see pitting corrosion, but once it's had a tickle with the sander and the wire brush, it welds really nicely. So I'm just going to continue and I'll show you when it's done. It's now about 7:30. It is going pretty well, welded in all the way along there up to there. I haven't even cleaned any of this off yet, but you can see they're decent welds, done as stitches. I did one spot weld down there, but I needed the weld to turn up quite a lot higher, and I need decent access from underneath to do it. The other problem I've got is it keeps setting fire to this rubber underseal underneath the car, which is quite annoying because then it's smoking me out. So it's a bit of a haze developing. I am wearing my breathing masky thing, but I can still feel it in my lungs. That's partly the problem because I've taped all the windows shut, so there's no air circulation in there whatsoever. So I'll carry on a little bit longer, but how much more I do, I'm not too sure. Right, that is in. I have actually welded it in properly all the way around now and done the plug welds across the back. Some of them really aren't very pretty, basically because I couldn't see what I was doing. Although it looks light in the view of this camera, it actually is getting quite dark now. And yeah, I couldn't really see what I was doing, and I don't have a light, so I was kind of guessing. But that will all clean up okay. Just got to put the heel board in, and then start the joys of doing the front. It's a few days later. It's actually the day, Saturday, that the windscreen and tailgate glass should all be being fitted. But I had a bit of a fail. I went back to my garage, or my dad's store, to collect my pristine windscreen, only to find somehow it was broken. I had no idea how that happened, but yeah, so I've had to order a new windscreen and everything's been delayed by a week. But in a way that's kind of good because it gives me more time to do the welding, so that's what I'm going to do today. Even though it's a bit windy for welding outside, but hopefully in the car it'll be alright. Okay, oh, whoops, don't try and get in the car when you've got your welding gauntlet on, or your headbutt things. That area is ground down a bit, sanded all the paint off along here, and then I've painted it all in zinc rich primer. That's the lower flange of the heel board. That's going to go in like so. So I've well, I didn't drill them, I used the hydraulic stamp thing, little clock joggler punch tool to pop the holes in there. They're only 5mm because I'm only going through onto 5mm diameter holes because I'm welding a real thin bit to a real thin bit, so it doesn't need to be big. The ones that I did there onto the underlying structure, they were much chunkier, sort of 6.5, 7mm holes, so I could penetrate onto that thicker metal beneath. So yeah, I'm not going to do all of this in detail, I'm just getting it done as fast as I can. I did try and record some of that with the GoPro. I'm not sure how well that worked because it went off a couple of times. That is welded in now. The welding along the top is lovely. The plug welds along the bottom are great. In that corner it got a bit of a mess because I couldn't get in there with my wire brush to clean out all of the under seal or seam sealer. So it's got a little bit bubbly, but never mind. Ordinarily I wouldn't bother doing any of the painting or seam sealing until I'd done that area, but for rust prevention, further rust prevention, I'm going to de-rust this again, then do it all in red oxide zinc, and really stuff it into that seam across the back, let it really soak in there, and then I'll probably go and just tidy up the rest of the car, mask it all off so it's nice and protected, and then I'll start chopping out the floor. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Looks better already. So while that's going off, I'm going to go get a cup of tea, find some more masking plastic or something, tidy that up, and then get ready to excavate in that front footwell, which I'm dreading, genuinely dreading. Well, I didn't go for a cup of tea. Curiosity got the better of me. That's all masked up. In here we have really quite worrying signs. Ordinarily these floor pans go out in that bottom right hand corner and that's it, and occasionally a bit of the inner wing, or sorry, inner sill, but this is a little bit more. The rust has actually extended right back to here and part way up the transmission tunnel, and in that corner I think it's just this footwell must have been absolutely brim full of water for long periods of time, which is really stupid because, you know, all we needed to do was pull out one of these inspection plugs and all the water would have drained away. There wouldn't have been a problem. So it is annoying, but then again, you don't know what other people have got going on in their lives, so probably wasn't an issue for them or high on the agenda. Like most of this is just a bigger patch and it looks scary, but it probably isn't. What is slightly scary is the condition of the chassis rail in here, because 99 out of 100 you can pull the floors off and the chassis rail's such thick metal it's just surface rust and it's fine, and because the chassis rails themselves have ventilation and drain holes in them, water doesn't ordinarily sit in there. But I think what's happened is crap has dropped off the underside of this rotten floor and filled it up with rust powder essentially, and then it's rotted because of that. So I am suspecting that I'll have to chop a lot of this floor out, and then I'll find that I'll have to either repair or replace the front end of this chassis rail, which will be a pain because then that will be more invasive, working out where to join it so it's neat, and also making sure it's goddamn strong. So little spreaders inside or something, I don't know yet, but we'll get there. Well, we'll work it out when we get there, but first off is to chop a big hole. Yippee! Right, starting to excavate. What I was worried about, the chassis rail is fine up to here, even still has cavity wax on it, but going forward it's quite pitted on the side. That, I think, is one of the original drain holes, but the rust has spread from there. Got a tiny pinhole up here, a bigger hole, don't know whether you can see over there. Basically that needs to come out. This is the reinforcer that goes from the transmission tunnel down and then butts up to this. That so far is actually looking really good. It's a little bit higher than this piece, so I think that's probably why. I haven't actually got to the outriggery thing yet, but so far so good. The underside feels dead flat, and I've been poking around in that thing, in that hole there, and that feels good, so I'm hoping that's okay. That's okay. It's just this longitudinal one, so I'm going to continue excavating as neatly as I can. Obviously the floor pan has already got to come out, but there's brake lines and things down here, so I don't want to sever those if I can avoid it, because they're original steel ones and they're not rusty, bizarrely. All of the rust has come from the inside going down, not from the up, you know, from underneath coming up. So it is a weird car. Yeah, very strange. I think I'm actually beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. Down here, I've excavated and punched through a massive hole, but when you actually look at the rest of the car going forward, you can't see it, but basically that chassis rail from the outside feels perfect. It's like the rust stops about there, so a bit more excavation to do, but I'm thinking I cut it here, unpick that bit, chop out the rest of the floor, but probably only need to replace the chassis rail up to about here, so probably about a foot length, and that's excellent because it gets a bit more complicated going forward. So I'm very happy. It might look like a big shitty hole, and it is a big shitty hole, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to keep on going and show you later. Now's about the time I wish I had a plasma cutter or some proper sort of choppy tools. I just can't get in there with a grinder a lot of these places, so I'm having to nibble small sections out so that I can get my grinder to fit. But yeah, I'm happy that that is good once it's cleaned up. I'm happy that if I chop basically where I've got to there, then all of the nastiness is in this section here. It can all go in the bin and be replaced with a nice new section. But I am going to go and have a cup of tea now because my lungs are full of dust and horror. Well, it's taken pretty much all day with my limited tools, but the footwell is out. I made the executive decision to chop the outrigger out. It is just surface rust, so that'll clean up and can go back in again. I had to chop out more of the chassis rail than I was anticipating, but we finally got back to decent metal. That outrigger thing, or transmission tunnel brace, is perfect. That end of the chassis rail is great. The inner sill, bit of unexpected Spitfire action. Yeah, the inner sill, I've had to take a piece out of there as well because it was starting to go frilly. But those of you who've watched the other videos might remember what I had to do on the other side of the car, where that whole reinforcer bit was missing and the lower edge of the sill was completely disappeared, and as was that bit. So all in all, that whole corner is a lot better than on the other side of the car. You can kind of see that down here. All of this has never had any work done, it's all perfect. So once that's stone chipped, it'll be good. But yeah, I think that's the end of my work for today. I'm just going to tidy up. My hands have had it, as has my nose. I think despite wearing that 3M mask, you still do get stuff coming through. Fortunately, I've not managed to dent, scratch or chip the paint at all. So I'm rather proud of myself. So I'm going to tidy up and call it a day. Just finished my clean-up. That is metal that's come out of the car. I've also put a new drain bung thing in there and given it some seam sealer, so all of that's nice and protected. And then under here, I think since last time I showed it to you, I've just shot a couple of bits with zinc, but nothing particularly interesting. But yeah, that's the end of today's video.